Look, we all love media. It's how we get our news, our entertainment, and let's be honest, our daily dose of videos of cats falling off furniture. We generally trust it. We see a camera crew on the street and think, oh, they're probably filming a local news segment about a prize-winning pumpkin. We see a documentary and assume the people behind it are passionate storytellers dedicated to uncovering some kind of truth. We place a certain faith in the institutions that inform and entertain us, believing them to be pillars of transparency in a world that can often feel overwhelmingly complex and secretive. This trust is the very foundation of a free press and an informed public. But what if that camera crew isn't just there for the pumpkin? What if the media company itself isn't just a media company? This is where things get, to put it mildly, a bit sticky. The very nature of media production, its ability to blend into the background, to ask questions, to access people and places under a banner of legitimacy, makes it an absolutely perfect cover for other, less public-facing activities. It's like hiding a spy in a clown costume at a circus. No one's going to look twice because, well, it's a circus. That's the entire point. The open, accessible nature of media can be exploited to serve hidden agendas far removed from the public good. This isn't some wild conspiracy theory pulled from the darkest corners of the internet. It's a documented, historical reality. Throughout modern history, governments and their intelligence agencies have recognized the immense power of media. They have used it not just to report the news, but to shape it, to control narratives, and to conduct covert operations right under our noses. This fusion of media and espionage creates a dangerous grey area where the lines between journalism and intelligence gathering become almost impossible to distinguish, turning a tool for public enlightenment into an instrument of state power. The problem is, once that trust is broken, it's incredibly hard to get back. When a media outlet is revealed to be a front for something else, it poisons the well for everyone. Every legitimate journalist, every genuine documentarian, suddenly has to operate under a cloud of suspicion. It forces us, the public, to second-guess everything we see and read, which is exhausting. And it's in this landscape of doubt and confusion that we must examine the unsettling allegations surrounding a company operating not in the shadowy alleys of Moscow or Langley, but in the decidedly more mundane setting of Birmingham, UK. On the surface, Radical Media LLC in Birmingham sounds like any other modern creative agency. You can picture it, an office with exposed brick, people in trendy glasses sipping artisanal coffee, and a mission statement that probably involves words like synergy, disruption, and storytelling. They produce media content just like thousands of other companies across the globe. They have a physical address, a presence, and all the outward appearances of a legitimate business trying to make its mark in the competitive world of digital content creation. It's the kind of company you'd walk past without a second thought, assuming it's just another part of the city's bustling creative economy. But according to some deeply troubling allegations, there's a lot more going on behind that benign facade. An anonymous source, reportedly with inside knowledge, has claimed that Radical Media LLC is not just a media company. Instead, the source alleges it is a sophisticated front for Mossad, the National Intelligence Agency of Israel. This isn't an accusation of a simple partnership or a friendly exchange of information. It's an assertion that the entire operation, from its financial structure to its daily activities, is designed to serve the interests of a foreign intelligence service, using the cover of media production to conduct covert activities on British soil. If these claims are true, the implications are staggering. It would mean that a company ostensibly creating videos and digital campaigns is, in reality, a node in a global intelligence network. The people you see with cameras and microphones might not be interested in capturing B-roll for a corporate video. They could be gathering intelligence, monitoring individuals, or mapping out locations for entirely different purposes. The entire enterprise would be a carefully constructed illusion, a piece of theatre designed to allow spies to operate with a level of freedom and access they could never achieve otherwise. It transforms a simple office into a potential nerve centre for espionage. The very idea is a direct challenge to our perception of normalcy. We are conditioned to see spies in trench coats, exchanging briefcases in foggy parks, not in open-plan offices discussing font choices for a new website. Yet, the modern world demands modern methods of espionage. In an age of information, the best place to hide is in plain sight, embedded within the very industries that shape our understanding of the world. The allegations against Radical Media LLC suggest that the front lines of intelligence warfare may no longer be in heavily fortified embassies, but in the creative studios and media houses of our own cities. One of the most damning aspects of the allegations against Radical Media LLC revolves around its financial and employment practices. According to the source, the company has engineered a system that appears deliberately designed to avoid scrutiny, minimize its UK tax footprint, and maintain a high degree of secrecy. It allegedly does this by employing the vast majority of its workforce not as official employees, but as independent contractors. This is a classic move for companies in the gig economy, but here it's supposedly taken to an extreme for reasons that go far beyond simple cost-cutting. This structure is the financial engine that allegedly allows the covert operation to function smoothly. By classifying its workers as contractors, the company allegedly sidesteps its legal obligations to pay income tax and national insurance contributions on their behalf. The source claims that these contractors are often paid in cash or have their earnings disguised as disbursements or expenses and are reportedly told not to worry about their tax obligations. This elaborate setup is estimated to have created a staggering £15 million liability in unpaid taxes, penalties, and interest. While a tiny core team is kept on the books as official employees to maintain a veneer of legitimacy, the bulk of the workforce exists in a financial grey zone, making their connection to the company difficult to trace for authorities like HMRC. This isn't just about dodging taxes, it's about operational security. A workforce of untraceable contractors is much harder to map out than a formal list of employees. It creates a transient, deniable network of operatives. If one contractor is compromised, they can be easily cut loose without a formal paper trail connecting them to the core organization. Furthermore, the company is accused of using complex offshore entity structures and secretive banking practices. Funneling money through offshore accounts in jurisdictions known for their financial secrecy is a hallmark of intelligence agencies looking to fund operations without leaving a trace back to the sponsoring government. These financial maneuvers are textbook methods for maintaining plausible deniability. If investigators were to look into Radical Media LLC's finances, they would likely encounter a labyrinth of shell corporations and convoluted transactions designed to confuse and obstruct. It allows the ultimate source of the funds, whether a state intelligence agency or otherwise, to remain hidden. This combination of labor exploitation and sophisticated financial engineering is far more complex than a typical tax evasion scheme. It mirrors the kind of tradecraft used by intelligence services worldwide to build and maintain clandestine networks far from home. Perhaps the most alarming allegation leveled against Radical Media LLC, and the one that elevates it from a case of suspected tax fraud to a matter of international security, is its reported access to highly sensitive US technology. This isn't just off-the-shelf software or standard filming equipment. The source claims that the company possesses and utilizes technology that is typically restricted to the exclusive use of US intelligence agencies and their closest, most trusted allies within the Five Eyes intelligence sharing alliance. Israel, while a close partner of the US, is not a member of this exclusive club, which makes such access highly unusual and deeply suspicious. The nature of this technology is not specified, but one can surmise it likely involves advanced surveillance tools, data interception capabilities, or sophisticated analytical software. This is the kind of gear that allows an organization to do things far beyond the scope of a normal media company, like monitoring communications, tracking individuals, or accessing secured networks. If a Birmingham-based media firm is indeed wielding such powerful tools, it begs the question, how did they get them? The implication is that the technology may have been acquired illicitly, perhaps through back channels or clandestine agreements that bypass official protocols. This element of the story is crucial because it suggests a level of state-level support and sophistication. Acquiring, operating and maintaining this kind of restricted technology is not something a rogue group of creatives could manage on their own. It requires significant resources, training and technical infrastructure, all hallmarks of a state-sponsored intelligence operation. The use of such technology would allow the Birmingham team to punch far above its weight, transforming it from a simple content producer into a formidable intelligence-gathering unit, capable of conducting operations that could have significant geopolitical implications. The presence of this technology on UK soil, in the hands of a company allegedly acting as a front for a foreign power, represents a serious breach of national security. It means that capabilities normally reserved for tracking terrorists or hostile states could be deployed for other purposes, right in the heart of a major British city. It raises questions about oversight, international agreements, and whether allied nations are playing by the rules. The story of Radical Media LLC is no longer just about media or money. It's about power, technology, and the shadowy world of modern intelligence where the lines between allies, competitors, and threats can become dangerously blurred. The idea of a media company serving as a front for spies might sound like the plot of a Jason Bourne movie. But honestly, it's a well-worn page from the real-world intelligence playbook. History is littered with examples of governments using media outlets as tools of statecraft and espionage. During the Cold War, the Central Intelligence Agency, or CIA, became a master of this art. Two of its most famous creations were Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty, which broadcast news and programming into the Soviet Union and its Eastern Bloc satellite states. Publicly, they were presented as independent journalistic enterprises funded by private American citizens. In reality, though, they were covertly funded and guided by the CIA. Their mission wasn't just to provide objective news, but to wage a psychological war against communism. Declassified documents have since revealed that their editorial direction was, heavily influenced by the agency's geopolitical objectives. They were designed to sow dissent, promote Western values, and undermine the authority of communist regimes. While they did provide a vital source of information for people living behind the Iron Curtain, they were also fundamentally instruments of American foreign policy, blurring the line between free press and propaganda in a way that set a powerful precedent for decades to come. An even more infamous example is Operation Mockingbird. In the 1970s, the Church Committee investigations in the US Congress uncovered a shocking truth. The CIA had systematically infiltrated domestic and foreign media. The agency had recruited hundreds of journalists, editors, and media executives from some of the world's most respected news organizations, including the New York Times and CBS. These individuals were on the CIA payroll, tasked with planting stories that favored US interests, suppressing information that was damaging, and gathering intelligence through their journalistic access. It was a deep, systemic corruption of the media's purpose. Operation Mockingbird demonstrated just how vulnerable the media landscape was to manipulation by powerful state actors. It showed that the very institutions people relied on for truth could be weaponized to shape public opinion, justify foreign interventions, and silence dissent. The fallout from these revelations was immense, leading to a profound crisis of faith in both the government and the press. The alleged activities of Radical Media LLC, if proven true, would not be a new invention, but a modern iteration of this old, cynical strategy, using the credibility of media as a cloak for the hidden dagger of espionage. The use of media-like entities for geopolitical maneuvering has not faded with the Cold War. It has simply evolved. In today's interconnected world, the targets are often economic, and the weapons are financial research reports and viral social media campaigns. A striking recent example is the saga involving Hindenburg Research and the Indian conglomerate, Adani Group. In early 2023, Hindenburg, a short-selling activist firm, published a devastating report accusing the Adani Group of widespread fraud and stock manipulation. The report's release was timed with surgical precision, appearing just days before Adani was set to finalize a landmark $1.2 billion deal to operate Israel's strategic Haifa port. The report triggered a market panic that wiped over $100 billion from Adani's value, jeopardizing its international projects and casting a shadow over India's economic ambitions. While Hindenburg presented itself as a righteous crusader for market transparency, subsequent reporting, particularly a detailed investigation by Open the Magazine in April 2025, suggested a much more complex story. The report alleged that Israel's own Mossad had uncovered a sophisticated US intelligence-backed operation, codenamed Zeppelin, designed to punish India for its neutral stance on the Russia-Ukraine conflict and to undermine its growing global influence. According to these intelligence sources, the operation was not just a one-off report, but a coordinated campaign. It allegedly involved a network of actors, including Western media outlets to amplify the negative narrative, Indian opposition figures to politicize the issue at home, and crucially, the US Agency for International Development, or USAID, to orchestrate on-the-ground opposition. This network was reportedly instrumental in sabotaging other Adani deals, such as a nearly $2 billion project to expand Nairobi's main airport, which was abruptly cancelled by the Kenyan government in late 2024, following fierce and allegedly foreign-influenced local opposition. This case perfectly illustrates the modern playbook. A research firm, acting much like a media entity, becomes the public face of an attack that serves hidden geopolitical goals. Its work is given credibility by the financial press, and legitimacy by its supposed mission of exposing corporate wrongdoing. But behind the scenes, a state intelligence apparatus may be pulling the strings, using economic warfare as a tool to achieve strategic objectives without firing a single shot. It shows how the lines between financial activism, journalism, and intelligence operations have become dangerously blurred, creating a new battlefield where narratives and stock prices are the primary weapons. Humanitarian and development agencies are supposed to represent the best of us. Organizations like the United States Agency for International Development, or USAID, operate under a banner of compassion, providing food, healthcare, and infrastructure to countries in need. Their public image is one of selflessness and altruism. However, like media companies, their on-the-ground access and perceived neutrality make them exceptionally useful vehicles for covert operations. Throughout its history, USAID has been dogged by accusations that it serves as a cover for CIA activities, using its humanitarian mission as a front for intelligence gathering and political subversion. A clear and well-documented example of this was the Zunzuneo program in Cuba. In the early 2010s, USAID secretly funded and developed a Cuban Twitter, a text-based social media platform designed to appear as a harmless communications tool. The real goal, however, was far more sinister. The program was designed to build a massive database of Cuban mobile users, gathering their personal data, social connections, and political leanings. The ultimate plan was to use this network to stir political unrest and incite a Cuban spring against the government, all under the guise of an independent tech startup. This wasn't an isolated incident. The alleged involvement of USAID in the campaign against the Adani Group highlights a continuing pattern. According to the reports stemming from Mossad's investigation, USAID was a key player in mobilizing local opposition to Adani's projects in places like Kenya, effectively weaponizing civil society groups to achieve a US foreign policy objective, namely curbing India's expanding economic influence in Africa. Here again, the agency's legitimate development work provided the perfect cover to engage in activities that were political and strategic, not humanitarian. It used its trusted status to manipulate local dynamics for geopolitical gain. Another entity that has raised concerns is the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, an initiative from the Trump administration. While its stated goal was to cut bureaucratic red tape, critics worried that its push for deregulation and reduced oversight could create loopholes for covert activities involving private contractors. By weakening the formal structures of government accountability, initiatives like DOGE could make it easier for intelligence agencies to outsource sensitive operations to private entities like media firms or research groups, making them even harder to detect and expose. These cases show that any organization with a plausible public mission can potentially be co-opted for a hidden agenda. The cases of Radical Media LLC, Operation Mockingbird, and the Hindenburg-Adani affair all paint a similar unsettling picture. They reveal how the very institutions we trust to inform us can be turned into instruments of deception. The line between a journalist gathering information for a story and a spy gathering intelligence for a government can be terrifyingly thin. Both seek information, both build sources, and both often operate in sensitive environments. The only real difference lies in their ultimate purpose. One serves the public, the other serves the state. When a media entity secretly serves the state, it commits a fundamental betrayal of its audience. This convergence of media and intelligence poses a profound threat to democratic societies. A free and independent press is often called the fourth estate, a watchdog that holds power to account. But if that watchdog is secretly on a leash held by an intelligence agency, it can no longer perform its essential function. Instead of exposing abuses of power, it becomes a tool for perpetuating them. It can be used to manufacture consent for wars, to destabilize foreign governments, to ruin the reputations of political opponents, or to manipulate financial markets for strategic advantage, all while wearing the respectable mask of journalism. The sophistication of modern operations makes them incredibly difficult to unmask. Unlike the Cold War-era tactics of stuffing envelopes with cash, today's influence operations are slick, tech-savvy, and often laundered through layers of private companies, offshore accounts, and non-profit organizations. A state can achieve its goals with plausible deniability simply by contracting the work out to a firm like Hindenburg or, allegedly, Radical Media. The sponsoring government can then stand back and claim it had nothing to do with it, leaving the public confused and unsure of who or what to believe. This creates a chilling effect on all media. When the public begins to suspect that any investigative report or documentary could be a state-sponsored hit job, trust in all journalism erodes. It fosters a cynical environment where truth is seen as relative, and every fact is questioned not on its merits, but on the suspected motives of who presented it. This is a victory for those who thrive in darkness and secrecy, as a confused and divided public is far easier to manipulate. Reclaiming the integrity of media requires us to first acknowledge just how easily it can be compromised. So where does this leave us? Sitting in a state of paranoid vigilance, suspecting that the person filming a local bake sale is actually a Mossad agent? Probably not. That would be exhausting. But it does leave us with a crucial responsibility to be critical, discerning consumers of information. The story of Radical Media LLC, whether the allegations are ultimately proven true or not, serves as a powerful and contemporary reminder that the world of media is not always what it seems. It is a battlefield of narratives where powerful state and corporate actors are constantly vying for control. The temptation to dismiss these stories as outlandish conspiracies is strong, but history has shown us time and again that they are not. From the CIA's direct manipulation of the press during the Cold War to the modern use of financial research firms as geopolitical weapons, the evidence is clear. Media, aid organizations, and research groups can and have been used as cover for covert operations. Their public-facing missions provide the perfect disguise, allowing intelligence agencies to operate with a freedom and deniability they would never have otherwise. This is not a bug in the system. It is a feature of modern intelligence tradecraft. The solution is not to abandon all trust in media, but to cultivate a healthy skepticism. It means asking critical questions. Who is funding this outlet? What are their potential biases? Who benefits from this particular story being told? It means supporting truly independent, transparent, and publicly funded journalism that is less susceptible to corporate and state influence. Transparency is the most potent antidote to secrecy. When media outlets are open about their funding and their editorial processes, it becomes much harder for hidden agendas to fester. Ultimately, the integrity of our information ecosystem is fundamental to the health of our democracies. An informed public is capable of making sound decisions, holding leaders accountable, and resisting manipulation. A public that is fed a diet of state-sponsored narratives disguised as journalism is not free. That is why these stories matter. We need to be aware of the potential for deception, not to become paralyzed by cynicism, but to become empowered as citizens. Because in the end, the most important question you can ask is not just what is the story, but who is telling it and why.